Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I am Dr. Sana Jabin, working as an assistant professor in Department of Botany, Dean of Science and Technology, University of Education, Lahore. This is the 16th lecture of the course Techniques in Microbiology, and this lecture is about the molecular approaches, which is the part of the techniques for determining the microbial taxonomy and phylogeny under the heading from our syllabus, that is the identification of microorganisms. This lecture is the continuation of the previous lecture that was about the classical approaches to identify the microorganisms. In this lecture, you will learn about the molecular approaches used to identify the microorganisms. This lecture will also cover the last part of our syllabus, that is the molecular identification, in which we have to study about the procedures in molecular identification of microorganisms. So let's start with the molecular approaches. It is hard to overestimate how the study of the DNA, RNA, and proteins has advanced our understanding of the microbial evolution and taxonomy. In contrast to animals and plants, that is the macroscopic organisms, microorganisms have left almost no fossil record. So, molecular analysis is the only feasible means of collecting a large and accurate data set from a number of microbes. There are several methods to study the microbes to classify them on the basis of molecular approaches. We will discuss each one in detail. First, we will discuss about the nucleic acid base composition. Microbial genomes can be directly compared, and taxonomic similarity can be estimated in many ways. The first and possibly the simplest technique to be employed is the determination of DNA base composition, that is the nucleic acid base composition. DNA contains 4 purine and pyrimidine bases. These bases includes the adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. In double-stranded DNA, adenine pairs with the thymine and guanine pairs with the cytosine. Thus, the G plus C is to A plus T ratio, or the GC content. The percentage of GC in the DNA is the GC content. It reflects the base sequence and varies with the sequence changes. This GC content can be determined from the given formula in the form of percentage. The base composition of DNA can be determined in several ways. Although the GC content can be ascertained after hydrolysis of the DNA and analysis of its bases with high performance liquid chromatography, which is shortly written as HPLC. The physical methods are easier and more often used. The GC content often is determined from the melting temperature, which can be shortly written as TM. So the GC content can be determined by the melting temperature of DNA. In double-stranded DNA, 3 hydrogen bonds join GC base pairs and 2 bonds connect the AT base pairs. As a result, DNA with a greater GC content have more hydrogen bonds and its strands separate at high temperatures. That is, it has a higher melting point. DNA melting can easily be followed by the spectrophotometer because the absorptions of DNA at 260 nanometer of the UV light increases during the strand separation. When a DNA sample is slowly heated, the absorbance increases as hydrogen bonds are broken and reaches to a straight line. Here you can see in this graph along the x-axis temperature is shown, while along the y-axis absorbance at 260 nanometer is shown. And here you can see when the temperature rises and all the DNA segments become single-stranded, then this graph becomes a straight line at the higher temperature. The midpoint of the rising curves, here you can see this is the midpoint of the rising curve, give the melting temperature. It is the direct measure of the GC content. The GC content of many microorganisms is determined and shown in this table. The GC content of DNA from animals and higher plants ranges between 30 and 50%. In contrast, the DNA of both eukaryotic and prokaryotic organisms vary greatly in GC content. Prokaryotic GC content is the most variable, ranging from 25 to 80% as highlighted in the table. Despite such a wide range of variation, the GC content of the strains within a particular species is constant. If two organisms differ in their GC content by more than about 10%, their genomes have quite different base sequences. On the other hand, it is not safe to assume that organisms with very similar GC contents have similar DNA base sequences, because two very different base sequences can be constructed from the same proportions of the AT and GC base pairs. Only if two microorganisms also are similar on the basis of their morphological characters, their similar GC content suggests that these organisms are closely related. So the GC content is an important character which is used in the molecular identification of microorganisms. Among other molecular approaches, nucleic acid hybridization can also be used for the identification of microorganisms. The similarity between genomes can be compared more directly by use of nucleic acid hybridization. If a mixture of single-stranded DNA formed by heating the double-stranded DNA and the double-stranded DNA is cooled and held at a temperature about 25 degrees centigrade, below the melting temperature. Strands will complementary base sequences will reassociate to form the stable double-stranded DNA here in this picture, whereas non-complementary strands will remain unpaired. Here you can see, because strands with similar but non-identical sequences associate to form less temperature stable double-stranded DNA hybrids. Incubation of the mixture at 30 to 50 degrees Celsius below the melting temperature allows these hybrids of more diverse single-stranded DNAs to form. Incubation at 10 to 15 degrees Celsius below the melting temperature permits the hybrid formation only with almost identical strands. So this picture illustrates the nucleic acid hybridization, and here you can see the denaturation at the temperature above the melting point, and after that the renaturation at temperature below the melting temperature, and here you can see the initiation of the base pairing, and some of these DNA strands do not pair. This shows that these are not identical. Here you can see in this diagram the renatured DNA that shows the binding or the pairing of the single-stranded DNA which are compatible to each other. Among the other molecular approaches, the most important and now in these days the widely used molecular approach is the nucleic acid sequencing. Despite the usefulness of the GC content determination and nucleic acid hybridization studies, ribosomal RNAs from small ribosomal subunits, that is 16S and 18S ribosomal RNAs from prokaryotes and eukaryotes. From prokaryotes, 16S is the smaller ribosomal subunit, and from eukaryotes, 18S is the ribosomal subunit. These subunits have become the molecules of choice for interfering microbial phylogenetic analysis and making taxonomic assignments at the genus level. That is the naming of the organisms at the generic level. The small subunit ribosomal RNAs, that is the SSU, commonly known as the SSU ribosomal RNAs, are almost ideal for the studies of microbial evolution and relatedness because they play the same role in all microorganisms. In addition, because the ribosome is absolutely necessary for the survival of the smaller subunit RNAs, are part of the complex ribosomal structure. The genes encoding the smaller subunits cannot tolerate the large mutations, so these are very important in the identification of microorganisms. These genes change very slowly with time and do not appear to be subject to horizontal gene transfer. An important factor is comparing sequences from different phyla. The utility of smaller subunits of the ribosomal RNAs is extended by the presence of certain sequences that are variable among organisms and other organisms that are quite stable. The variable regions enable the comparison between the closely related microbes, while the stable sequences allow the comparison of distantly related microorganisms. For this purpose, we use the nucleic acid sequencing, and we use the PCR techniques. The ability to amplify the regions of the ribosomal RNA genes, that is the ribosomal DNA, by the polymerase chain reaction, and the sequence the DNA using the automated sequencing. And this technology has greatly increased the efficiency by which these sequences can be obtained. PCR can be used to amplify the ribosomal DNA from the genomes of organisms because it conserved nucleotide sequences at the flank regions of the interest, that is at the terminals of the DNA sequence. In practice, this means that PCR primers are readily available or can be generated to amplify the ribosomal DNA from both cultured as well as uncultured microorganisms. A huge data of this region is available in the public databases. The primers which are used for the amplification of the specific region of the DNA are used, and the annealing temperature, here you can see this is the temperature at which the DNA denatures, and here is the temperature which is known as the annealing temperature. This temperature is very important for the attachment of primer with the template DNA, which is used for the amplification of the ITS or the region of the smaller subunit. So this graph shows the conditions of the PCR machine, and this is very important temperature which is known as the annealing temperature, and it depends upon the primer which is used for the amplification. This figure shows the comparative analysis of 16S ribosomal RNA sequencing, demonstrating the presence of oligonucleotide signature sequences. These are short conserved nucleotide sequences that are specific for a phylogenetically defined group. Thus, the signature sequences found in bacteria are rarely or never found in archaea. Here you can see the representative examples of ribosomal RNA secondary structures from the three primary domains, that is the bacteria, in which E. coli is taken as an example, archaea, and the eukarya, in which the example is taken from the fungal group. The red dots here you can see, these are the positions where the bacteria and archaea normally differ. So these small ribosomal subunits of the RNA can give the information about the different domains of the organisms. Comparative analysis of 16S ribosomal RNA sequences from the organisms that are thousands in number has demonstrated the presence of oligonucleotide signature sequences. This table shows that here you can see the position of the nucleotide base, that is, for example, at the 47th position of the sequence. C is present in most of the organisms, while it is replaced by U in spirochetes and G in planktomycetes. Here at the position 53, adenine is present in almost all the organisms, that is, it is the consensus base. and this base is replaced by G in spirochetes, and it is also replaced by G in green non-sulfur bacteria, and G is also present in planktomyces in comparison with the A. So these are the positions at which certain nucleotide bases are replaced by other bases, and this replacement is helpful in identification of the microorganisms by the analysis of the nucleic acid sequencing. So this is the reading material. Most of the data of this lecture is taken from the book Microbiology by Prescott and the co-authors. You may read the chapter 19 of this book. Some of the information is also taken from other parts of the book. You may get knowledge about it while reading the chapter 19. Thank you.